مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد ان سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله اما بعد اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns to discuss something which is very important and to try to engage with our intellects, to try to engage with our senses, because the mushrikeen and many atheists now will say, how is there a God? How can you believe there's a God? This is just what people wanted to believe in the old days, because they couldn't understand things. They couldn't understand why the sun is the way it is. They couldn't understand why the moon moves in the way it does. They couldn't understand why it is that the earth is the way it is. They couldn't understand these things. So they had to have a sun god. They had to have a moon god. They had to have a sea god. They had to have all these gods in order to understand things. We are now men of science. We are men of intellect. We don't need God no more. God has been made redundant. This was just a belief. So this is a very important verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses this very thing. He says, Inna fi khalqi samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahar. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the changing of the night and day. And we've already mentioned before, many verses back, where we discussed in great detail about the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this earth, the way He has created the atmosphere in the skies, how it is that the stars are where they are, how it is the way the moon is, the sun is, the proximity of the earth to the sun and to the moon, how all this is unique and remarkable. And I discussed that at great length when we maybe going back now 5-6 weeks. And also the changing of the night and the day, very important. You might think, so what if the night changes into day and the day changes into night? What's the big deal there? There is a massive deal there, because there are creatures which can only survive in the night, and there are creatures which can only survive in the day. And if the sun was 24/7, then the plants would die. And if the plants would die, we would die. Because the plants themselves, and the plants themselves require the sun. So without the sun, the plants can't exist. Without plants, we can't exist. So it's the plants then that take in the sunlight, and they convert water and carbon dioxide into oxygen, which is what we breathe. So without the oxygen from the plants, we would be dead. Without the sun, the plants would be dead. There would be no life on earth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is continuously, the earth, rotating on its axis as it goes around the sun for spring. And the reason why it goes around the sun is so that we have these different seasons. Without these different seasons where life comes into it, and where the world kind of dies and then comes back to life. This continuous cycle where when we get into autumn and winter, the world dies. Everything stops growing. And then when we come to spring, the whole world springs back into life. وَالْفُلْكِ الَّتِي تَجْرِي فِي الْبَحْرِ بِمَا يَنْفُعُ النَّاسِ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the ship. And the ship is quite a unique thing. You've got a bottle of water there. If I was to take a nail, and if I was to put the nail in that bottle of water, the nail would sink to the bottom. Yet a ship weighs 200 to 600,000 tons, and it floats on water. How can it be that a nail, which might weigh a gram or 2 grams, will sink in any amount of water? Yet a ship, which is weighing several 100,000 tons, can float. Obviously, without going into physics too much about upthrust and buoyancy and things of that nature, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the laws of physics in order to keep the ship afloat. Why? So that we can prosper and benefit and eat fruit from the Caribbean, and eat fruit from far, far lands, and eat and have resources from far, far lands. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that by Ishara. بِمَا يَنْفُعُ النَّاسِ وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ مَاءٍ. And also that He sends down from the heavens water, this unique substance, water. Again, I can talk to you about its hydrogen bonding and why it should absolutely evaporate a lot earlier than it actually does. It should evaporate around 60-70 degrees Celsius, not 100 degrees Celsius. But if it did, there'd be no water on the surface of the earth. We'd all die. But this water which comes down, there is approximately, and I didn't sit down and work this out, but there's approximately 326 million trillion gallons of water. 326 million trillion gallons of water. The same amount of water since the time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it up until now. Why? Because we're in a closed system. None of the water evaporates out of our system. Same water. You drink it, you go to the toilet, goes back, it comes back to us. Same water. Oh, clouds back, clouds back, clouds back. Again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, look, don't believe just like that. Look with your eyes, use your head, use your brain, use your intellect. You think this is all come about by chance? You think this is all just fluke? You think this is all happen like this? Think about it, reflect over it. I'm not asking you to blindly believe in me. I'm asking you to use your senses and then believe in me. فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. And this unique substance, this water, which when you look at it seems so insignificant, and it's surprisingly how this very same water gives life to the earth. A dead earth suddenly becomes so fertile. Insects, plants, trees, birds, animals. Yet before the water, dry, hard, cracked land. وَبَثَّ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ دَابَّةٍ. And then he spread out on this land every type of creature. And you'd be surprised as to the creatures there are. There are around 10 million species alone. I'm not talking about the number of animals on the earth. I'm talking about the species of animals on the earth. 10 million. So one can only imagine how many there are. If there's 8 billion humans, but how many ants are there? How many mosquitoes are there? How many locusts are there? How many lions, tigers, bears? Allah spreads all these and He keeps them in balance. One eats the other, so we don't have too many flies. We don't have too many mosquitoes. They're kept in check because other creatures eat them and other creatures eat them, so everything is finely balanced. It's only when mankind interferes with the earth that this balance goes. We destroy trees, so there's no habitats. We kill certain type of creature, so then there's a problem within the food cycle. It is us that destroy it. Otherwise, the food cycle where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has balanced the earth and the creatures within the earth is absolutely miraculous. Miraculous. وَتَشْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ. And the moving of the winds. The winds bring the clouds, they take the clouds. They pollinate. Winds cannot actually be used to pollinate as well. All this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is drawing our attention to. وَالسَّحَابِ الْمُسَخَّرِ. And clouds which are held. And again, clouds are unique. They're not too heavy for them to drop down, and they're not too light to float away. Perfectly balanced. Floating in. And these are just tiny, tiny, minuscule raindrops being held. Drops of water being held. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, now what miracle do you want after this? What other miracle are you waiting for? These miracles are in front of your eyes every day. These are the miracles which you need to explore and look at. وَالسَّحَابِ الْمُسَخَّرِ بَيْنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. These are signs for the people who apply their intellect. Again, Allah is not talking about blind faith here. He's saying apply your intellect. Believers that follow the religion of Islam, do not just, there are certain things which we have to believe, which cannot be intellectually ascertained. We have to accept belief upon them. But to achieve that belief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use all these signs. Once we get that belief. Because if that man, because this was, remember, all these words came from the blessed lips of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He uttered these words. So when this man is telling you about things which your eyes can, only now we can work this out, which your eyes can see, your intellect can see. If you can now understand these things, then there are some things which are beyond your akal. There are some things which your intellect has no understanding. For example, if there's a medic amongst us or a GP amongst us, and he started to use certain language, the rest of us will be thinking he's talking French or something. What was he chatting about? If there were a physicist amongst us and he started talking about physics, we wouldn't know what he's talking about. And these are only worldly sciences, where some of us have expertise in some sciences and others don't. But if we accept using our akal those things which we can, then we have to also accept those things which our akal cannot comprehend. A heaven, a hell, punishment, a resurrection, questioning, scales. All these things are beyond one's intellect. How can you sit and think to determine whether there are scales or not? You can't. This comes to us through revelation. We can't ascertain that using science. It's beyond science.